Hello and welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA Radio. This is Patrick Franz, your host. We're talking about note investing, mortgage note investing with my guest, Desi Arnaz, professional investor. And, during the break, we just had a quick chat and Desi says, oh man, we ran out of time last segment. Can I go over this deal that I had? Because they just gave the house to me. And so let's elaborate on that. Des, explain the deal that you were just discussing with me.
Okay, sure. Well, Patrick, I purchased a mortgage on a house in New Jersey. This gentleman and his wife had a nice home. They had remodeled it and everything, but for whatever reason, they fell on hard times and could no longer afford the house. And so I reached out to them before filing a foreclosure. I reached out to them to say, hey, what's going on, guys? And they told me that they could no longer afford the house and they didn't want a foreclosure on their credit. And they asked me if they could just give me the house back, just give it to me. Well, I paid $165,000 for the mortgage note. The property at the time that I bought the mortgage note, the property was appraised at about $240,000. But by the time they reached out to me to give me the property back, I was able to sell that property for $255,000. Remember, I only paid $165,000 for it. So there's a $90,000 upside on that deal. And I didn't have to sweep it out even. I didn't have to swing a hammer. They moved out of the property. They took all their stuff with them. I used a technique called cash for keys. So I gave them a couple $1,000 so they could move. And I did not put a foreclosure on their credit so that as soon as he's working again, they can go buy another house. It was a win-win all the way around.
And what a cool thing, because maybe Wells Fargo or somewhere, there's a big bank and they're just a number. These borrowers, they're just a number on a sheet of paper, and there's gatekeepers. Now here's Desi, a professional investor, takes the place of the bank and does cash for keys. How neat is this? Somebody got themselves in financial distress, going to be foreclosed upon. Desi says, well, I'm not going to foreclose upon you. And in fact, what I'll do is if you sign the house over to me, I won't foreclose. And also I'll give you a couple $1,000 that'll help you guys to be able to move out and to be able to move on with some dignity. And what a win-win situation that is. Great for those folks and great for you as the investor. So that's why we love it. And, I think a lot of people are starting to understand this, Des. We've got radio shows like this. We've got YouTube channels. We've got people talking about notes now. The word is spreading, and there's a lot of newbies. And I don't hate that term, but there's a lot of brand new note investors that are getting into it because they kind of hear or see the opportunity that's available. And they're flooding the industry, right? And you know this because you have a coaching group called the Note Investor University. Is that right?
Yeah, I started teaching people, Patrick, because everybody was asking me 2 or 3 years ago, right before COVID. So I guess that's about 2 years ago. And I thought, well, let's just make a little program. So we've made a program where we teach people how to invest in notes, because I'm a firm believer you should never invest in anything that you don't understand. And so we help people understand the space.
Yeah, and people would only get into it because they understand the opportunity. Some people don't see it, so be it. But others say, "What you guys just say? What? This sounds too good to be true." And so, let me ask you. Even though this note investing has been going on for a really long time, not a lot of people know about it. Why?
Yeah, that's the question I asked myself when I first found out about mortgage notes in 2013. I thought, I used to own a Century 21 franchise and 2 different mortgage companies. And I thought, how could I not know about notes? How could that even be? Well, there's an old saying, Patrick, you don't know what you don't know. Okay. And that was me. And so when I found out about notes, I started doing research to figure out how it had escaped me for 30 years. And as it turns out, it didn't really escape me for 30 years. It wasn't available to us. Because here's what happened. Back in 1938, Congress approved the creation of an organization called Fannie Mae. We've all heard of Fannie Mae, Federal National Mortgage Administration, right? Fannie Mae's charge was to do this, to create a market where mortgages could be bought and sold, kind of like the stock market, where stocks are bought and sold, right? And so Fannie Mae created something called the secondary mortgage market. And on the secondary mortgage market, mortgages have been traded since 1938. Trillions of dollars have been traded on that secondary mortgage market. It's just, it was traded by wealthy individuals, large banks, large insurance companies, large corporations. Those were the only players in that space all that time. But then in 2008, they were overwhelmed with foreclosures when the Great Recession came. You guys might have heard stories of people living in their house for 2 years and 3 years without getting foreclosed. It's literally because the secondary market did not have enough people, did not have enough infrastructure to foreclose. And so they were letting people stay in their homes for years without foreclosing. And they were forced to have to open up a window of opportunity to get this stuff off their books. And so they started selling off these mortgages to ordinary folks. And that happened during the 2008, 2011 timeframe. And so this opportunity, even though it's been around since 1938, for us, it's still ground floor.
Yeah. And so, talk about that a little bit. I mean, you're a coach in the business. And again, noteinvestoruniversity.com, I believe it is, right?
Yeah, that's our website, noteinvestoruniversity.com.
Noteinvestoruniversity.com. Desi teaches people how to create financial freedom by using this investment vehicle as an option. And so that's so cool. But so you deal with a lot of new people. There's a ton of new people flooding the industry, seeing the opportunity. Really, the opportunity began maybe in 2011 or 12 for us as a whole. And where's it going? I mean, there's a lot of fluctuation in these markets, and there's things going on that are kind of under the hood, so to speak, that a lot of people don't understand. But is there still a major opportunity for people to get into note investing, learn what they need to learn to become an expert, and be successful and create wealth for themselves?
Yeah, and that's a question that I had at the beginning when I first got started. It's like, okay, I understand this window of opportunity has been open, but I thought that as soon as the market turned around, they were going to close that window. I thought they're going to get these ordinary folks out of this thing and go back to the way that they were, but they didn't. And there's reasons for that, which we won't go into today, but the opportunity is still here, and it's going to be here for a long time. And as people discover it, they're going to see what I just showed, and that is there's 3 possible outcomes. All 3 are decent. Why not put some money there? And so there's going to be more and more demand for this stuff. And by the way, this market is a lot bigger and a lot more active than traditional real estate markets. So if you think there's a lot of real estate to be had, there's a lot of mortgages to be had, because one piece of real estate can actually have multiple mortgages, can't it? It can have first mortgages, second mortgages, third mortgages on one house. There's a lot of real estate. Plus, mortgages get sold a lot more often. If you've ever been a homeowner, Patrick, you probably have received a letter from your lender saying, we've transferred your loan to this new lender. Starting next month, please pay those guys. Don't send the money to us. That means your mortgage was sold. That happens a lot. And so
mine in the first year. In the first year after they originated my mortgage, it was sold to a different bank. Very quick.
It happens a lot. It happens all the time. And so that could have been me that bought your mortgage, or it could have been any one of these people that are listening today. They could have bought your mortgage. You'd never know because you have no say so about it. Right. It gets sold to who it gets sold to. You just keep making your payments. Otherwise, you could face problems, right?
Yeah.
So I see the opportunity as being huge. I see it also, I see another opportunity. The biggest opportunity, I think, is the opportunity to be the go-to person in your circle. You see, because not everyone wants to learn how to be a note investor. Some people just want to put their money to work, but they don't know how. Most people who want to invest in real estate, they know a real estate broker they can call. Or if they want to invest in stocks, they know how to do that. But even if they like notes, most people don't even know where to get started. And so if you've been trained in that space, I show people how to use very specific techniques to create a portfolio for themselves, while at the same time helping people in their circle of influence, helping those people get their money out of the stock market where it's really at risk, or out of banks where it's just pitifully under yielding, underperforming, right? And put it into something that's safe and high yield, and at the same time, the note investor can do really well. And I can show people how to build a $1 million note portfolio in about 4 years, and they'll have $6,000 to $10,000 a month coming in for the rest of their life.
Yeah, and that's the difference. I mean, somebody could be an expert house flipper, right, Des? And they've got the crews and they know how to get the projects and put the houses under contract and go to Home Depot and do all the things to manage flipping a house, which is a heck of an undertaking and can be. And with that level of expertise as an expert house flipper, maybe that house flipper doesn't have enough money to fund the entire flip, and they need 100 grand to go to Home Depot and buy the materials and pay the crews. Well, they can go to a private investor, right, and say, hey, maybe they have a rich uncle. Hey, Uncle Joe, I'm flipping another house. I need 100 grand and I'll pay you a certain rate of return on that money. If Uncle Joe's happy with that and trust the house flip skills of the guy. Well, the point is, you guys can do that. You can build expertise in the note investing space. You don't have to be a house flipper and manage contractors and go to Home Depot and do all of that. But could you offer somebody a wonderful investment opportunity to fund one of your note deals instead of maybe fund one of your house flips? Yes, it's possible. Yes, it's possible.
Yes. And they're happy to do it. They're happy to do it. I spoke with a guy this morning too that said, I really am looking forward to being a lot more passive. He owns several notes right now, but he's retired and he travels a lot. And he said, even though my notes don't require very much work of me, he said, I'm thinking I really want to just be more passive. And so he is in a position where he has a lot of money and he's more than happy to say, hey, I'll put up the money, you do the deal, let's just split this. Right. And there's a lot of people like that.
There's a lot of people like that. That's what I'm saying. And so you're probably getting an influx of people that are calling you, can you help me? And that's why you started the Note Investor University. At the noteinvestoruniversity.com, they teach you how to do all of this and set yourself financially free using notes. And we're going to talk exactly about that, your coaching group, Desi, what you offer, how people can benefit, and the wonderful affordability level of that. So folks, you're not going to want to go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back on the Real Men of Real Estate radio show with my guest, Desi Arnaz, and we're going to talk about the Note Investor University. We'll be right back.
Yes.